So, in the early 1800s, hot cocoa was invented for the first time. It wouldn't be until several hundred years later that it was invented for the second time. So, what makes hot cocoa unique in its particular properties, hey kitty, is that unlike other cocos, say vanilla cocoa, banana cocoa, etc., hot chocolate, hot cocoa, is made from the cocoa bean, the chocolate variety, not the drug variety. So here I'm using here I'm using a Keurig, which is a modern invention for creating hot drinks. Now, usually this is in the form of coffee, i.e., I have a reusable coffee pod because I respect nature. Now, if you simply don't use a coffee cup, the K-pod, as they like to call it, you can simply dispense hot water. Now, I was able to show my coworkers the other day the beauty of being able to use a cup of noodles, putting it under a Keurig, and then letting the hot water simply not necessarily boil. You don't actually have to boil the water. It simply needs to be hot. So you take that, you could put the cup under there, dispense hot water inside, and it would infuse into the noodles over a few minutes, and they became cooked enough that you could eat them. Now, in a similar way, I can use hot chocolate powder, and I can dispense hot water into a coffee mug, but instead of making coffee, I'm actually making hot chocolate. Again, don't confuse that with vanilla, banana, root beer. This is not that, okay? Those are made in a different machine called a blender, okay? This specifically, hot chocolate, not room temperature, not lukewarm temperature, not sub-zero temperature, not absolute zero temperature chocolate. Hot chocolate. Not steaming, not boiling, especially not flaming. Hot chocolate. I will now, as we can see, without any kind of flavoring, simply close the lid here. And I will, of course, because I am a thirsty man, use the large setting. And you can hear the sound of the Keurig activating. It will now dispense a large portion of hot water. Let's watch. Here we can see this particular mug is from a Henry Ford museum, which I don't remember going to recently. So there's that. And see this? You can notice, if you look closely, that the water is not brown. That's because there's no coffee inside the machine here. It is simply using the water from this container, boiling it inside, taking it up and over. So it is simply the tap water that I had gotten from my sink in my bathroom, and I am now applying it to the Keurig machine. Now that it is finished, we can take a look inside and confirm that this is in fact hot water. Maybe you're thinking, well, it's kind of tinted. Well, there is to be some residue of coffee expected, and that's okay, because I'm not going to drink hot water because I respect myself. Now what we do, we take the lid off of our Sam's Club size 70 serving chocolate mix. Now this is really the source of the hot cocoa. See, somewhere chocolate was mined out of the earth. It was then crushed in a crushing machine and turned into a powder, as you can see here. Note that this is not a liquid. This is in fact a solid, but it is so fine that it may almost appear as a liquid. Somewhat sand appearing, though even finer. Now, what I will do is I will take 2 heaping sugary spoonfuls and carefully dispense them in the cup. Now, you may prefer to mix one and then add the other. I'm feeling a little saucy, so I think I'm going to add both at the same time. Now that I've added both of my spoons of hot cocoa, I will of course close the lid to preserve the freshness of the remains of my freshly mined salt of the earth chocolate edition hot cocoa. Now, it is of course important that I take this over to my desk, some may call a stirring area, and as I set it down gently and take a seat, of course scoot closer to it, I must now mix it. The thing about powder, and especially in this case, hot cocoa, is that the powder inside is actually a suspension. Now, you may be thinking, well, it should be a solution. This is incorrect, of course. The chocolate powder is becoming hydrogenated. It is being kind of absorbed into the liquid, but it is not completely dissolving. If it were dissolving, it would remain inside the liquid indefinitely. However, in a suspension, the particles of the powder are actually evenly dispersed within inside the hot water. Now, you're thinking, well, I don't want to taste a bunch of particles, and that's why, as we saw earlier, the particles were so thin, so that as you drink it, it will appear to be a slightly more viscous variance of water, when it is in fact water with thousands, nay, possibly billions, grains of freshly mined salt of the earth chocolate powder inside of it. Now, it may be time. This is the taste test. Now, in this case, I've got Swiss Miss, which I believe may be a Nestle brand. I'm not sure. If you keep up to date with Nestle products, you may notice that they try to hide the fact that they're Nestle, because Nestle has been involved in some uncomfortably scandalous behaviors. I don't know that much about them, so I'm not really an authorized source of information. I'm gonna need a second taste. I'm drinking somewhat asymmetrically. I need to make sure that I hit the left side of my mouth. Third taste. Well, now I've oversaturated the left side of my mouth. Let's try for a 2/3 variation. Now, you at home may actually be able to taste the grains. I can't. That's the point. So if you can, good for you. This has been today's talk on vanilla beans. Next edition, I will of course be talking about what has been a long-awaited review. As promised, I will be talking about keys, their nature in the world, and why the lockpicking lawyer is actually Jesus Christ returned. Thank you so much. Like, subscribe, and throw your computer out the window. Thank you, and have a wonderful, amazing, superb, excellent day. Goodbye.